You've already learned how to form the comparative adjective. Right, using that ter on the suffix, so moroteros, more foolish, or axioteros, more worthy. But now, really, that's not sufficient. We want to be able to say that something is greater, or more wise, or more foolish than something else. We want to say X is blanker than Y. And this lesson is going to show how to do this than Y part of the equation. We can already do this. X is greater, X is wiser. But how do you do the than? And there are two ways to do it in Greek. The first is going to be to use a. And this really translates almost directly to our than. Now the thing to keep in mind is that when you compare two things with a, you're going to compare them in the same case. So, ho aner sophoteros estin e hopais. The man is wiser. Right, up until this point, you could translate that. Than, there's our a, hopais, then the child. The man is wiser than the child. Hopais is in the nominative because we're comparing it to another nominative. Or, echo mikroteran oikian e ho basileus. I have a smaller house than the king. So you say, well, what's actually being compared here? Ho basileus is nominative, so it's being compared to the unspoken I in the nominative here. So I have a smaller house than the king. If the king were in the accusative, then somehow we would say that I have a smaller house than I have a king, so the king is somehow bigger than my house. A little odd, but that's how it would work. And we see that here. Ho poietes pethe andreoterois logois. The poet persuades with braver words than deeds. Ergois is in the dative. That means we're comparing it with another dative. So his words are braver than his deeds. The king has a bigger house than I. The child is less wise than the man. Okay? So A is going to compare two things in the same case. The other way to do comparison, now this use of A is actually very, very clear. We know exactly what two things we're comparing because they're going to be in the same case. The other way to do comparison is a little less clear, and that's to use the genitive of comparison. So whatever is being compared, the second thing, right, is going to be in the genitive case. And so rather than e hopaidos, ho aner sophoteros estin, we could keep our article in the two paidos. The man is wiser. We're good up to that point. Two paidos, no a, then the child. This is pretty clear. There's no worry about that. Echo mikroteron oikian tu basileos. There's our genitive. No a. Remember, genitive comparison does not use a. I have a smaller house than the king. The only way you really know that this is going to be a genitive of comparison and that you need to insert a than is that you have a comparative there. Hoi poietis pethe andreoteros logois. The poet persuades with braver words. Ton ergon, than deeds. So that's a problematic. There we have to sort of say, well, what is being compared? Logic tells us that what's really being compared is the words and the deeds. But without that a, all we know is that this genitive is the than deeds. And we have to use context to explain the rest of the sentence. So those are the two ways to do it, using a and using the same case, or using the genitive of comparison.